found a few tiny little pieces of microdebitage, but I mean less than 1 centimeter. Not too much to look at. Because I mean you never know what you might turn up. There could very well be a point or some sort of scrape or anything buried in these floors, and you know, unless we do this, we won't know.
Ben, you got a pencil?
No. I'll give you 2 guesses.
I'm really enjoying it. It's been a lot of work, but it's been fun. And I'm glad we're finally getting to some real features here. But no, it's been better than expected. And working with Dick has just been a dream come true.
Well, I feel like they're starting to lose some of that initial anxiety they had about reading the soils. They're becoming more confident. They still check in regularly, which is a good thing.
I guess in comparison to the first day, I have a little bit more confidence when I'm digging in dirt. If you look at something and it's darker, at first you're like, it's just in my mind, but now you can sort of be like, oh, but it's softer and it's like next to a house floor, which is consistent with our pattern, so I built up a little more confidence, I guess.
The lab is the place where the student team starts the process of describing and interpreting their finds. Typical lab tasks involve physically tracking all the materials that they bring into the lab.
By the end of a project, you might have 200 bags of artifacts, and you need some way of keeping a record of what you found and where you're storing it and that kind of thing. It makes it easier to go back and find a particular bag if you need to also.
So right.
Truth.
Oh my god, that's something. I'll take them out of the bag.
So many.
These may look just like broken pieces of rock to the untrained eye, but in fact, these small flakes are the lithic debitage from the hunter-gatherers who lived on the hilltop site.
Remember, Jess, with great power is great responsibility.
Yeah, thanks. Oh my god, you guys said that way too much in unison. I knew where she was coming from.
Collating and cross-referencing field records.
Organic smear 19. 19? Yes.
And scanning records to create a digital record of the field work.
Hole 1, I. Post hole I.
Yes, Das Boot has a...
That's in feature 2, by the way.
It's in feature.
Bag number 47.
Then comes a much-needed break from the field and lab, a South Park geology field trip. All archaeological information is generated on a landscape that has specific geological properties. Often these properties influence how and where past people undertook various activities, or they can record environmental change during the extended period during which human populations inhabited a study area.
Glaciers here they begin as ice fields, and they have done all of the sculpting of these mountains, and where you get these nice knife edge ridges going up into the mountains, and those are called arêtes, between 2 glacial valleys, that real sharp edge that goes up. And you can have what's called a col, which is a pass, a natural low area, and if you get cirques on all sides of a mountain, you get a Matterhorn.
It's been kind of muddy getting here, but very cool. We are in, what's this called?
Well, it's right next to Buffalo Peaks, which Sue Bender thinks are full of sacred sites. Well, Sue Bender thinks that the Native Americans thought that Buffalo Peaks was like a sacred site, and this is right next to it, and it's also in a huge open valley which attracts animals, so it's a good hunting place and everything.
So what did the landscape look like around 12,000 years ago when the first people came?
It's kind of a trapped pocket of time here that was brought in by trapping the water and allowing this marsh to grow. And the marsh is 20 feet thick with peat and moss and thousands of years of buildup. And all the land around it, the climate changed, but because of the constant supply of spring water from the formations, it's a little pocket of time that's takes us back right to when the glaciers ended.
After the fen, the group heads out to Trout Creek Quarry, where natives, like the ones who lived on the house floors, got raw material for tool production.
That's like a textbook little blade right there. It's a flake, a perfect flake, textbook flake, but it definitely has use wear on it and has a real good edge. So
See the black trailings through it, identifying Trout Creek Church.
I've always loved this place from the minute I saw it, and it's just, we were saying that people must have been in paleo heaven when they found this. It's just like an embarrassment of riches.
Knowing where ancient peoples accessed the raw materials to make their stone tools is a major question for the archaeologists studying ancient populations.
Look at it, that looks pretty churty. What do we say? Yay or nay on chert?
I think that's chert.
Yeah, I think that's chert.
Dude, take that shit down, it's huge.
I think I won. I'm not carrying it.
This is a question with which a geologist can help.
I'm going to take it from here, I'm going to walk down into the Hardy side, and then
I definitely have developed an attachment to the physical place just because it's so beautiful. I mean, looking at these mountains will never get old.
Well, this is my first time in Colorado, first time to the West Coast, and so the landscape out here is absolutely not quite what I expected. I didn't really know what to expect, and it is incredible. I absolutely love the mountains, and I love that the people here are here for that reason. I think that might be my favorite thing about Colorado so far and being out here is that, you know, I come from the East Coast, I come from the shore, where it's ocean and it's a whole different kind of ball game. It's a whole different kind of people.
No, I knew it would be pretty much awesome, but just the feeling of space you get out here. Just being able to see a road continue for like 10 miles in a straight line all the way until, you know, goes up into the mountains. Like, you don't get that. I don't get that in upstate New York. I mean, certainly there are mountains, but not on this scale.
If a person comes out to this landscape or lives here, a couple of things are always obvious. One is it is vast. It is hard to describe without using cliches. You can see weather for 50 miles. You can experience weather violently, quickly. It is incredibly beautiful, and I have to believe that all people who have been here feel pretty much the same.
It's really cool just walking around and finding like petrified wood and finding lithics everywhere, and it makes it much easier to try and picture what it would be like back then.
Today was a really good day on site. We got a lot accomplished. Our volunteers that were with us today were terrific. They interacted wonderfully with the students and were interesting people, and so it felt like the students wanted to get to know them and they wanted to get to know the students. And they worked well and hard right alongside the students. So it was felt like a very easy introduction.
I'm local here. I live near Fairplay, and I've been with the project since they started, I think 8 years maybe? I don't know. I look around and look at how beautiful it is here and think about people living here, and it's you never would know unless you had studied the area.
Oh, it's nice to be back in the field. It's nice to have the dirt under your fingernails. It's good. No, I've never done this in Colorado before, but I had heard about this project. I mean, it's nice to be able to at least be involved and know what kind of archaeology is going on in our backyard. And it is something that I do have every intention of getting my kids involved in.
What I'm introducing locals to is an archaeological record that bespeaks a very long time period of native occupation and use of South Park.
One of the reasons that I became interested in archaeology was because when I would travel, I would want to learn the history of the culture of the place. And it came to me that archaeology was a significant source of all of that knowledge. So the books I read and all of the things that I learned, which were so enriching and interesting, were because of archaeology. And it inspired me to become part of that.
I guess I've grown up in a really populated place, so coming to small town like Alma, it's totally different experience. And meeting people that live there and they have such a connection with where they live, and even that they're like coming out to learn more about like their town's history, you know. I mean, I just think that's great. Like, I don't know anyone back in my hometown that would do that.
It's also really interesting because I think almost everyone I've met, no one grew up here. They're all later in life transplants, so it's interesting to see how their attachment to the place and how they view, you know, the importance of their surroundings as compared to us who, you know, we're just coming in too, but we're going to be leaving soon. So
the students and volunteers trudge on, their hard work rewarded by progress with 2 features.
We're actually starting to get down to a large area of hard-packed soil, so potentially a living surface of some sort. So we are starting to uncover features in the new unit, which is good, and they are looking like they line up with features in the other units, so it's all starting to fit together again.
When we were excavating, we kind of found this, and it kind of carries out into this, and it goes over into 123, which is Allie and Danny's unit, and now we're trying to fill it in over here as well. Oops. But it's essentially, it's a floor plan, or a floor, and we're going to try and see if it actually extends much further. Oh god. So we've got feature 12 documented.
that'll be the, it'll come down in a base shape. So do that.
This isn't the level line, that's the top of the ground, right?
And so we brought a couple pieces of the puzzle together and recognized that we had a rather extensive edge of a house floor showing up in 2 adjacent units. And then we had these wonderful pits that we were cross-sectioning, which we could see in plan section as these big black stains. And then we started to bisect them to get a sense of their shape. And as we went down, we started finding cracked rock around the edges of the pits, and the pits started looking like rock-lined pits.
I'm digging in our pit, and so far we've got, it appears to be lined with a lot of rock. It's hard to get all the dirt out from between the rocks, but it's definitely exciting to see how far we can push the edges.
Ben was saying, based on his studies, his comparative studies, what he thought we needed to find that we hadn't yet found were some storage pits. Well, we've got them now.
So this probably was used as a storage pit of some sort, and that's also another feature I wanted to see. Well, the more house floors that we find and the more they fit together, that always seems like good evidence. We are also finding more post holes, which is another good sign of a structure.
What's special about this site is that it seems to be a locus of habitation domestic activity.
We think that this might be a fragment, probably fire cracked because it's so angular, and we've got some reddening going on in there, of metate, a grinding surface, because you can, when you look at it in cross section, you can see that it's grooved here, which is usually one of the things that happens with the metate. And then if you look really carefully, you can see these really regular striations across the surface, and that's what happens when the seed is being ground. With a grinding stone in that direction like that, it will create that kind of grooving on the surface. So I'm pretty sure that we've got a metate fragment here. The game are so prevalent on the landscape that it's very easy to imagine these foragers as having primarily sustained themselves through hunting and not pay attention to the gathering portion of their economic activities. And so this is a nice indicator of the fact that we've got some major gathering and seed processing activities going on here at the site. It can also help us with seasonality as well, because seeds become ripe and ready to use at particular times in the season. This probably suggests a late summer kind of an occupation. So those are the two major pieces of data that we get from this kind of evidence.
We found a lot of the rocks are pretty flat, and some of them have red, which could be a sign of heat treating, and the same also white and black spots on them. We've also found that the soil is even a little red, so that's possibly been affected by fire as well.
I know not everyone is thrilled with lab time, but it's kind of nice for us to look forward to it, me and Kyle, because we get to pull these things out of the ground and then we get to wash it and actually look at it closely, catalog it and see what it is. And I know other people have been working together, two squares have been working together trying to map a feature.
Should I sign in on my own?
Kyle and Geneva start to clean the rocks they collected from their pit, hoping to find out if they show signs of heat alteration, and help them discover what this pit was used for.
Get them all off my fingers. Kyle, where are these rocks from? Spread these babies out.
They're all sitting right here. The bag I just put over there.
We're cataloging some rocks. It's gonna be great. Dream Team Unit 121.
Okay.
Yeah, hold on.
3, 1, 2, 3.
121! Yay! Okay, and we're done.
See if they're reddish or if they're white seem to be indicators that they may have been heat treated.
You can see on the edges here, it's definitely redder than the actual sediment of the rock. And then this would be an example of whitening. So, we just got a lot to go through.
Meanwhile, Danny and Jess join up their maps from their separate units in hopes of seeing the continuation of a floor.
We're making a composite map of feature 12 that runs through both of our squares.
So we're trying to kind of match up our different scales and try and put the best way to put it on one piece of paper right now.
I am entering in these total station values that we took today into the computer for the records.
We are scanning forms and maps into the computer.
Started hailing all of a sudden, but I'm a big fan of thunder and lightning too, so it's pretty cool.
That's really something! running a hail with like these.
It's pretty awesome.
That was awesome. You know, because we're inside, it's awesome.
I loved it. It reminded me of home. I grew up in Siberia.